Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
The Todd-Cast is filmed before a live feline audience. Good evening, everybody. We're back again. This time, it's just Kris and I. Alice decided that, again, she felt that she didn't have anything to contribute. I disagree, but, again...
She also had to work tonight.
There's the big issue. She's doing things at the aquarium.
Yeah.
So
there we are.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about skiing in Colorado.
The episode I've been waiting for.
Yeah, this is the one that she's been frothing at the mouth for, because this is, well, this is her baby. This is her fun. This is what she does. This is the enjoyment part of Colorado that she grew up with. She knew how to do, and what her dad and her, well, not necessarily her mom.
Only a couple of times, and then she got injured. She tore her ACL, and that was that.
I know a little about that.
You do know a little about that.
Not on snowy hills, but on wet mountain hills with pine needles.
Hills.
Yeah, and it's almost as slick as ice
It
itself.
is. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm being silly. Tonight, we're going to be talking about skiing in Colorado, and skiing in Colorado all the way from about the late 70s through the 80s.
Yep.
And to today, and probably a little bit of history, deeper history, in Colorado about where all that began and
where it
why.
all began.
But yeah, for me, I'm here as technical support.
You're my studio engineer tonight.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm technical support. This is what I'm doing. This is all about Kris tonight. And yes, I'm going to actually be paying attention more to the special effects because,
oh dear.
Well, the last few times, I just didn't. I was sad because I couldn't get there in time. So yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
I'm actually happy I've got the cameras dialed in now a little better. We look like humans.
Yay. What do you know?
There's that. Let's see. Without much further ado, go ahead, Kris.
All right. Well, as Chuck alluded to, I thought I would start off tonight rather than just jumping right in to say, I love skiing and here's where I love to ski and why. Yes. I thought I would give everyone a little history of skiing in Colorado. Don't worry, it won't take long. So I have to credit the Uncover Colorado and the Colorado Historical Society for this information, as well as for a couple of photos that I'm going to ask Chuck to insert at key points. So skiing arrived in Colorado in the 1800s, long before Colorado was a state. As a way for miners and others that are supporting the mining community to get around in the winter in those deep snows at the high elevations where the mines were. The Postal Service also picked up skiing as a way to deliver the mail in the cold winter months up there. And fortunately, a lot of the early miners came from Scandinavia, and so already knew how to build skis. So they taught their colleagues how to build the skis out of wood and complicated leather binding straps. They were usually around 11 feet long. If you can imagine that, I certainly cannot. That's a big ski, crudely made out of wood. But hey, they got around. So There's a fun picture of them from the Colorado Historical Society, which will be put here. Later in the 18th century, skiing expanded from just being a means of transportation to actually being a form of entertainment, because what else are you going to do in those long winter months, right? So it became a recreational sport, along with like local races and jumping contests, and the formation of ski clubs statewide, which are still very prominent today. Later in the actually around that same time, just around the turn of the century in 1914, Howelson Hill is considered North America's longest continuingly operating ski area, and it's near Steamboat Springs. I mentioned it briefly when we talked about Steamboat Springs before. Named after Captain Carl Howelson, a Norwegian immigrant who pioneered recreational skiing in the area with large ski jumps. And there's a great poster, which you'll see here, with the ad for ski jumping, or actually he called it ski flying lessons. Ski sailing. Oh my goodness, I'll get it right. Ski sailing lessons. And it looks quite terrifying the way that the poster is, but ski jumping is actually a lot of fun. So that's kind of the north and central areas. Down further south in the Salida area, which is where all the big collegiate peaks are, the first formal ski area was Monarch Mountain, established in 1939. And Monarch is still functioning today. And that's where skiers accessed the mountain through a crude technological innovation called the tow rope. Oh, the tow rope. So essentially it's a big rope. In this case, it was a 500-foot rope attached to an old gearbox and powered by a car engine, a 1900s car, or, early 1900s car engine. It's still in use today in a few of the bunny slopes where you learn how to ski, because you can't, like when you fall off a tow rope, you can't fall far. It's not a ski lift. They had a tow rope where I learned how to ski, and I've destroyed many a jacket, because if you don't hang on tight enough, of course, the rope will rip whatever you're holding on with. At any rate, the first major ski area that was considered is considered to be Winter Park, which was opened in 1940. And then I gave a brief mention to this last time when we were going up and down the I-70 corridor, the Colorado 10th Mountain Division, which was formed in 1941, inspired by a Finnish small but fierce army division that is famous for outrunning the bigger, more powerful, more outgunned Russian forces in an epic battle in Finland. So the Colorado 10th Mountain Division was formed after them, and they trained at Camp Hale on a place called No Name Mountain, which you might have heard of now because it's called Vail. So that's Vail Mountain. And then when those soldiers came home from World War II, many of them started a bunch of ski resorts because that was what they were doing. And approximately 60 of them in Colorado, as well as across the country, including Vail and Aspen Mountain and A Basin. And if you skied any of those, that totally makes sense. And then by the 1970s, Colorado was known internationally as a skiing mecca. And then in the 80s is when snowboarding entered the scene. Skiers and snowboarders have I'll call it a fairly uneasy truce at this point. And I'll leave it at that. Someone else can talk about snowboarding.
Like who?
Not on this podcast.
I was going to say. I don't go down mountains with boards on my feet. Okay? I don't go down mountains when they're snowy.
No, I know you don't.
Yeah.
And
neither does Alice. Well, okay, she did. She learned.
She did. She learned.
Yeah.
But, which was probably a first for your whole family.
Yeah.
There's a last, except for Kat.
There's a story about that, about my dad There used to be a very large sporting goods outlet here in Colorado, and it was called Gart Brothers.
Okay. Yep. The ski castle.
Yes. Well, the sports castle.
Okay.
Yeah. It was not a ski castle.
Aw, that's what I called it.
Well, they did have what they called Snea Grab.
They did.
Okay.
Bargains spelled backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And essentially what it was is they took all their discount and
End of season.
almost destroyed stuff and put it on sale. And that's when my dad took us down to the sports castle and bought skis and boots.
Having no idea what you all needed.
Exactly. Just because they was cheap, and therefore that we're going to go get them because apparently in Colorado we're supposed to know how to ski, and I was of an age where apparently that was supposed to start happening. My mother wanted no part of it.
Wise woman.
Yeah. So my dad and myself, and of course Alice was too young at that point. And yeah, we got skis. Then we went over to the elementary school that was by my house that had a lot of lovely hills, and we tried it then during winter break, and it was at night. It's after the sun went down that we were going to go try and do this, and it was a disaster.
I can't imagine.
It was an absolute disaster. So, I've been on skis.
Sure. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I've been on skis.
You have.
The end.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Skiing at your elementary school is like skiing in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it made me discover that I did not have a taste for it.
Well, not there.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No one would. I would
Nope.
hate it terribly too. If that's all I had.
Yep.
So.
But anyway, moving on
Moving on.
to the fun part.
So, on the flip side, I learned how to ski when I was about 5. And I didn't learn on any weird grassy area in an elementary school. I learned at Loveland Valley. And I've skied at Loveland Valley and Loveland Basin. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Loveland Valley and Loveland Basin countless times. It is a locals ski area. So I learned how to ski there. And when it was time for Kat to learn how to ski, that's where I took her to learn how to ski. It's got a great bunny slope. They're very focused on, I mean, a lot of these places are focused on teaching children to ski, but I find that they're very good at it. And I would recommend either there or Winter Park to learn how to ski, quite honestly. So yeah, I've talked about this one before, so I won't read off stats and everything tonight. This is more about Kris's experience skiing. So, like I said, I've been there millions of times. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but many, many, many times, countless times. And it is a locals ski area. It is the first ski area that you come up to when you're going up I-70 from Denver. It is right at the Eisenhower Tunnel, like literally the basin is on top of the tunnel. You can ski and watch the cars go under you, or while you're on the lift going up to the peak. And as a result, that's a gorgeous bowl to ski. It's wide open, beautiful. And other than that, you're looking at a highway. It's a beautiful view. So it's a huge plus because it's before the tunnel, because the tunnel itself is fine, but the hill on the west side of the tunnel is very steep and straight down. And I forget the grade, 17%, something like that. It's a steep grade. And that's well and good. But coming home with everybody else from all of the other ski areas over there, that hill gets really blocked up, particularly if the weather's bad and people are spinning out and all of that. They have since changed the laws, and you cannot go up in the mountains if it's snowing or if there's snow or ice on I-70 unless you have four-wheel drive with adequate stow tires, and they define what adequate means, or chains. So that helps. The other thing that they've started to do, particularly on the weekends, is they will escort crowds, a certain number of cars over the tunnel or up the hill over the tunnel to, I don't think they go down as far as Idaho Springs, but a fair ways down on the east side to just establish a traffic pattern and limit the number of cars that are going down the hill at the same time. And that has improved things a great deal. So that's one place I've skied. Next is Eldora Mountain. And I picked this one next. It was called Lake Eldora when I skied there. It's another local spot. It's only about an hour away from Boulder. So it is a quick, great place to go if you want to just like catch a half day of skiing, or you wake up and the weather's great and you don't want to face the I-70 traffic. You can just pop over there. I've only been once, so I can't really speak to what it's like today. And the day we went, it was really icy. I feel like the slope faces either south or west, and so it tends to be icy. Maybe it's because it's windy there. I'm not sure. But anyway, it wasn't the best experience for me after being spoiled by the powder and pack powder at all of the other ski areas. To me, it's worth the drive to go up a little bit further. Another spot we frequented and is definitely in my top 5 is Winter Park. It is a fantastic ski area. This is the first one that I'm talking about that is actually, while I still want to call it kind of a locals place, it's next to the town of Winter Park. So there's accommodation, lodging, and restaurants. And, it's a nice place to go and be. But I feel like it probably discourages out-of-staters because you have to go over Berthoud Pass to get there. So I feel like that's probably intimidating to a fair number of people. There is a ski train that goes from Union Station in downtown Denver up there. It's been kind of on again, off again over the years because I guess it's hard to make a profit on that ski train. But when it's running, that's another fantastic alternative to not having to sit in traffic. Gives you a different view.
Now, didn't Alice mention that Winter Park was actually owned by the city of Denver?
Yeah, it's a city park of Denver.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. That's another episode thing that we should do of all the mountain land owned by Denver.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of city property or city parks in the mountains that are about 25 to 30 minutes away from Denver itself.
Well, that's a little further than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, it's that's the only one I know of, so we'll have to do a little research and homework on that one.
Well, there's another reason too. And it all pivots around Denver water.
Ah, yes, Denver water.
So that's all I'm going to say is there is a PBS special on the Colorado experience that talks about the water wars in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
And that's about as much as I'm going to mention because there's still a lot of very, very tender feelings about that in Colorado.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And
so
where we live now in Thornton is among the current tender feelings for sure.
Oh, my.
Because they have just successfully completed a pipeline from the far north ends of Colorado. And
yeah.
So.
Well, it's the Big Thompson project that took water from the other side of the divide and brought it back to Denver.
Yep.
So
yeah, water rights in all of Western United States are a big deal.
Yeah.
And this is, you're right. And that's probably a solid reason why.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's just horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, my dad with mining background experience and law background experience focused on these kinds of things, thought that Denver in the late 70s, early 80s was pretty much finished building. Of course, he was dead wrong because there was no water. Like that was all the water. So obviously we've come up with more water. But
yeah. And to put another thing into it, Nebraska is now involved.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Okay, moving on. Back to skiing. Back to good stuff. So another favorite of mine, I also talked about last time, one of the big focal points of Winter Park is that's where handicap skiing or abled skiing program is probably among the largest. And it's not just skiing, but all kinds of winter sports and now summer sports as well. And learning. So that's why I was recommending that as a place to learn how to ski. Obviously, if you're teaching people of all abilities how to ski, you've got it dialed in really well. I love Winter Park. So I love Winter Park because it is the Winter Park side, the blue runs, and here's where we can insert photo here of what the different colors and shapes mean. So all of the ski slopes are rated by color and shape. So the green circle represents the easiest. And wow, if you want to Google it, they talk about percent incline and all that kind of stuff. I find that they vary by ski area, to be honest, but it is often it's marked as green because it is the easiest way down, not necessarily because it's easy. And so there's the green circle, the blue square, which is intermediate, which is where the vast majority of us like to ski. And typically the blue slopes are known for either they're very wide, and so therefore, even though they're steeper, you can, traverse it. Just like roads do switchbacks, you can absolutely ski that way down to the hill. That was one thing Mom loved to do when she skied, was to get on those big wide slopes because you're just enjoying the view. And yes, you're skiing, but really it's just an amazing experience. And Winter Park definitely offers that. They have a very long run. I used to have the names of all the runs by heart, but a very long run that is very wide, easy to get down, or challenging. If you point your skis down the hill and go, you can get some momentum. But if you choose not to do that, you can traverse, and not very moguly. So that's a blue slope. And then a black diamond is the expert. And so that's where expert skiers are most comfortable skiing. And then there are double diamonds, and I just learned triple diamonds, which I did not know. I don't know if we have any in Colorado. I'll have to investigate that. But the triple diamonds, double diamonds are challenging even for advanced skiers. I have skied a double diamond just to say that I did it, but it was a struggle. It took every ounce of skill and bravery that I had to get down that hill. They are typically narrow, full of very huge moguls, like buried Volkswagens sized moguls. And the real expert skiers get very grumpy if you try and shave off the moguls because you're chicken and you can't ski around them because it's too steep. But anyway, I got down one, and that was good enough for me. I've skied plenty of black diamonds, and that was back when I skied every weekend and was pretty good. There's no way I could get down a black diamond right now. Anyway, so that's an aside on that. So Winter Park has some fantastic blue diamond or blue squares, blue slopes that are a joy to go down. And then over on the Mary Jane side, which is where I would tend to move then once I got into high school and started skiing with friends more than parents, a little more advanced. It was new at the time, so it was the exciting place to go over and ski. We all thought it was hilarious because it's Mary Jane, and that's what pot, a name for pot. And so, of course, we all thought that was hilarious. And so we would ski over there. So, and now there's a third area there, which I haven't been there since the third area opened, but love Winter Park. The snow is typically packed powder to powder, and always in excellent condition. They groom the slopes very well. Okay, the next one on my list is Crested Butte. And It is, I think, my number one ski area in Colorado. It's southwest of Denver near Gunnison, but boy, is it a haul from Denver. It's about 4 hours away. So it is definitely not where you go to go skiing for the day and come home. So it is a planned trip. Oh, and that 4 hours, all of the hours from Denver that I'm giving you are on good days with sun and no snow on the roads. So in the winter, it's going to take you a little longer, right? But because of this, it's hardly ever that crowded. Yes, you can fly to Gunnison and get there that way. Gunnison is the closest kind of named town near it. Crested Butte itself is a town. And I would say I love it. It's my number one because of the fact that it isn't as crowded as the I-70 corridor. The conditions are always fantastic. What else? The town itself is a delight. It's fun to go. And when you're there, you see depending on when you go, we went for spring break typically. And so by then the snow had started to melt a bit. But all of the houses in that area have tin roofs and have an entryway on the second floor. So you know how deep the snow gets. Did you have a comment or are you just bringing it over? Okay. A similar opinion for Steamboat Springs. So that's located northwest of Denver. And again, it's a trek to get there. It's about 3 hours from Denver. Again, on a good day. So it is another one that's a multi-day trip. So I went before it was right now, as we kind of commented when we talked about Steamboat last time, it is the rich kid ski area of choice nowadays. And so I haven't been there since that happened. But when I was there, and I would imagine that even though that is the case, Steamboat itself is a town of mining days origin and early cattle ranching origin. It still is that. So I would imagine that even though the Shishi folks are there, that it's still an amazing fun little place to stay. Granted, it's probably a lot more expensive than when we went there.
Well, it's jokingly called Aspen Light.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
The reduced rate Aspen.
Reduced rate Aspen.
Yeah.
Not quite as many fur coats. Anyway,
yeah.
It is worthy. I mean, as I was mentioning at the beginning of this, the very first ski slope was there, and for good reason. It is, again, pack powder, amazing conditions all the time, fun, beautiful, well-groomed slopes. I got the worst sunburn of my life while skiing there, though. So bring your sunscreen, including on your lips, because that's where I got my sunburn, like here, like all over my face, but specifically here. Anyway, but it is incredible skiing. Definitely another one in my top 5. And speaking of expensive, while we're talking of Aspen Light, now I want to talk about Aspen. Again, I skied there. It was probably already moving toward that where the wealthy went, but not quite what it is today. And went with my family and some friends of the family, and we spent the weekend up there and had a fantastic time skiing, except for the fact that that's where Mom tore her ACL. But Aspen itself is actually 3 different ski areas. So there's Aspen and Snowmass, and now I have to look at the third. I think Buttermilk is actually considered, it's close to Aspen, but I think it's its own thing. I skied on Buttermilk and probably Aspen Mountain, and I don't think I skied on Snowmass, but maybe we did. And it's another haul. It's about 3 hours from Denver. If you go up I-70 through Glenwood Springs and then over, or the other way to go is over Independence Pass through Leadville. And but you can't do that in the winter for skiing because Independence Pass closes. Oh, if it's not closed already, it will be soon because of snowfall. So
they just had snow. They just had snow.
Okay.
So it's not closed yet.
But it will.
I'd expect it to close about mid-October.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
in about a couple weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the record, most ski areas don't open until mid-November at the earliest, for those that have snowmaking.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember last year, Winter Park was open the second week of October.
Well, if they have tremendous snowfall that supports on top of their snowmaking abilities,
okay,
then they can open earlier. But most of them, their goal is to get open for Thanksgiving, because that's a nice 4-day weekend that everybody wants to go skiing.
Because everybody wants the fat money turkey.
Of course.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's a lot of people's goals, but it is somewhat variable depending on how much snowfall we get. Like I said, most of the big ski areas have snowmaking equipment at this point. So as long as the temperature is cold enough, even if we're not getting precipitation, they can open at least some part of the resort, if not all of it. So that's next on my list. So then next I want to talk about Copper Mountain, which is another favorite. And I would say it's the next most convenient to Loveland. So it is just on the other side of the tunnel, just past Lake Dillon. So for people who are going that are from out of town, you can either stay in Dillon or you can stay in Copper Mountain itself. If you're lucky, you can get a condo that's right next. Literally, you can ski to your condo, which is, I would love to be able to do that. And then you can ski. The condos are up enough on the slope, not too high, of course, but enough so that you can put your skis on off of your back porch and ski down to the lift without working too hard. So I would love that. And it's on the side of the mountain that is the blue slopes. The easier of, I always thought Copper was a more difficult ski area, but I think it's because we were over on the left side as you're facing the mountain, which is the more difficult area. And I went there a lot in high school, and that's where we all went. And so I always thought it was a little more difficult, but over on the right side, there's some real pleasant long blue runs. And that's the only other place that Kat has been skiing other than Loveland, and she enjoyed it a lot and is currently her favorite ski area, but she's only had 2 to choose from so far. So next I'll talk about A Basin. So it's a local favorite again, because there's no lodging or anything up there. It is definitely a younger kids or fairly advanced skier kind of resort. It is known for its kind of party atmosphere and bikinis skiing and open early and open late because it's up at the top of Loveland Pass. And it is a lot of fun if you're in that age bracket or expertise bracket. But again, I would say it's probably a more locals place, although you could probably stay in Keystone and go up there. So if you're a big family, you could have the younger kids and the adults skiing at Keystone, but the teenagers, the college kids could head on up to A Basin and ski there. You can get ski passes that are good for all of the Summit County ski areas, so that's kind of handy. Or you can get your lift tickets just for the ski area you want to ski at. Then Keystone, speaking of Keystone, it's an enjoyable resort. We talked about it quite a bit last time. And because they've built it as a resort. So it's not necessarily built around a town. They built it with the intent of it being a destination for both skiing and winter activities, but also summer activities. They have a lot of things going on there year round. It is a great place for families because you can do lots of things. So if you're not a skier, there's plenty of other things to do because it's a resort, and there's sleigh rides and snow forts, I want to say, and and ice skating because they have a lake. So all kinds of little fun activities that you can do even if you don't want to hit the slopes.
Now that's another question that I was going to bring up. We talked about that these are resorts, so the lodging is expected to be there,
but they're not everywhere.
And that was my next question: is should people expect to not have lodging at a lot of these places?
Well, that's why I'm specifically talking lodging. So,
okay.
Loveland does not have lodging. A Basin does not have lodging. Loveland is close enough that you can drive up from Denver, but if you want to stay up on the mountain and ski in Loveland, Idaho Springs, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things is don't always expect that you're going to show up at the ski lodge and be able to book a room.
Right.
Because it doesn't always happen that way. A lot of these places, they spent the money on having the ski lodge and the runs. Well,
and the lifts. I mean, that's what you're spending your money on.
When I say the runs, I'm including how to get up and down.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The lifts and the grooming are the things you're paying for when you're buying a lift ticket.
So don't expect all of a sudden it's going to be like going to Disney World.
No, but some of them are. And Keystone is definitely one because it was completely built as a destination resort. So it's got the lodging, it's got the other things to do other than skiing. But A Basin does not have lodging. Loveland does not have lodging. Winter Park has lodging, but in Winter Park, not at the ski area necessarily, but they're 5 miles apart. So it's, you can definitely stay up there, but it isn't, lodging designed for the skiers, although there's plenty of lodging designed for the skiers up there at this point. Copper has lodging now that is, as I said, right on the slope. So it is got a fair amount of lodging. And before that was all built, you could stay in Dillon. There's plenty of lodging down in Dillon, and it's not that far away. It's one exit away. So, it is convenient that direction. So then, and of course, Aspen, Crested Butte. So Crested Butte has lodging in the town, or you can stay in Gunnison. What else have I talked about so far? Aspen has lodging, if you can afford it. A Basin does not have lodging. Next is Breckenridge. Breckenridge absolutely has lodging. And while it was another one that was a miner's sort of mecca, now it is absolutely a resort destination. There's lodging. It's a town. Lots to do there. And I think it's a lot of fun. Again, it's a good mix of ski levels, from beginning to super advanced. Some great blue runs and some great black runs. They have some great like bowls, which are fun. For me, if I'm going to ski a black run, it's going to be on a bowl. I don't like the narrow, scary, big mogul-y things, but the bowls where you kind of have to work to get there and work to get back. And they're challenging in another kind of way. Were much more preferable to me. Also because then when I chickened out, even though they're super, super steep, I have plenty of room to do the traversy thing. And so even though the folks that I'm skiing with who are better had to kind of wait for me to catch up to them, at least I could get down in one piece. Next, I want to talk about Vail. So Vail is one that gets a hard time from the locals because it is kind of the local rich kid resort. I know we talked about it last time on the I-70 corridor episode where we talked about how expensive it is there. Yes, it is absolutely expensive. But you know what? Pack your lunch, buy the lift ticket, because it is fantastic skiing. 10th Mountain Division knew what they were doing when they chose to train there. It is, lifts are great. I guess I haven't really touched on the lift situation. So lifts vary in what they are. So we talked a little bit about the tow rope. There's a thing called, I'm going to call it a pommel. which is another one where you're just getting pulled while you're standing on your skis up the hill. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There are 2-seaters, 3-seaters, 4-seaters, with varying things that prevent you from falling. So if you're afraid of heights, the lifts can be an experience. Yeah. And then some of them are high speed, which means that they do have a little more protection for you. And then all the way up to the gondolas where you take off your skis, you hang, they go in little slots on the outside. You get into the little car and enjoy your completely enclosed ride up to the top of the mountain. So not unlike what you have at Disney World.
I was just going to start to bring up the Skyliner at Disney World.
That is where they got it.
Yeah. And okay, all y'all out there in Disney World thinking that this is the greatest thing in the world. It's been around a while.
A long time. Yeah, and we got it from the Alps, right? So it was old before it came to the US.
We got it from Europe.
Absolutely.
It came over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
And it is far and away the most comfortable way to get up a hill. And if it's a long ride up to the top of the hill, you're not getting blown to death by the winds as you're gaining an elevation. But of course, they're expensive to run and operate. So not very many places have a gondola.
Right. And speaking of the chairlifts type thing, the Sky Ride at Elitch Gardens, the old Elitch Gardens.
Oh, yeah. That was just a ski lift thing.
A ski lift, essentially.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Well, in Disneyland, to get from Fantasyland and over...
Those were buckets. Those weren't chairs.
Yeah, but that was very much modeled on a ski lift.
Yeah, it was. It was. But the reason I bring up Elitch's is because it was a chair.
A chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And it freaked my mom out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the buckets kind of simulate the gondola experience. And so lots of different chairlift experiences. They run at different speeds. If you do get on a high speed one and you're thinking, how am I going to get off this thing without breaking my neck? They do slow down, believe it or not, at the end. So you have a second to get off at a reasonable speed. But it is lots of crashes when getting off of a ski lift. Most people do it just fine, but it is definitely something that you have to learn how to do. Yep. There you go. All right. So back to Vail because it had the gondola and that's what made me think of all of that. Gondolas are also nice because they run winter and summer and you don't need to have special equipment to get off of them. So a ski lift, if you don't have a ski or a snowboard, good luck getting off of it because you got to run down a hill. Whereas as a gondola, it stops you in a nice enclosed space where you get off and get your skis and everything. So it's a lot more civilized. But yeah, Vail offers amazing runs and your skiing history there. It is a nice place to go. But like I say, if you pack a lunch and know that everything is going to cost a lot, it used to be that the lift tickets there were a lot more expensive than these other places, but I'll tell you at this point, they're all expensive. And I don't necessarily think Vail is more than the others at this point, but it probably is a little bit, but it is worth it. It is an incredible place to ski. All right, so that's a summary of all of the places I have skied. Where have I not skied? So I haven't skied in Sunlight. That's the one that's up by Glenwood Springs that Alice has skied at. I have not skied Telluride because that one is probably the biggest haul from Denver. It's about 6 hours with everything cooperating and going your way. So I haven't skied Telluride, Purgatory, Powderhorn, Monarch, or Wolf Creek are the ski areas in Colorado that I have not tried. But I would love to try them all. With the exception of Telluride and Sunlight, the others are all at the summit of mountain passes. So it's high altitude skiing for sure. Wolf Creek, you've heard us talk about Wolf Creek Pass and how scary it can be. Although it's a lot tamer now, I'll tell you. I don't think Alice believes me, but now it's a lot tamer than it was.
Alice is never going to believe you because it involves a mountain road that doesn't have necessarily guardrails or anything to actually stop a car from going over the edge.
No, that's true. It doesn't have that. But they've widened the road and they've put on the snow roofs. And,
it won't matter.
Yeah.
That won't matter.
Okay.
I've driven it.
And I feel like they've leveled it a bit too. It's not as steep as it used to be.
When going to, SCA events, going down to Farmington, I've driven Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
And honestly, I had a really good time driving Wolf Creek. And,
it's a beautiful pass.
I took the Charger down.
Yeah. Ooh,
and that was a fun little ride.
I bet it was.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. But you can imagine how scary it is in the winter. And
yes.
And if not impassable in the winter. But
well, a friend of ours and I went over Wolf Creek Pass in a Prius during a snowstorm. Okay.
Do not recommend.
No. She did great.
Yeah.
She did great because
you're here to tell the story.
We're alive.
Yeah.
But it was not. And Kat, if you're watching this, you did great. Okay. No matter what Richard says, you drive great in the snow. But anyway, I digress. I digress.
But at any rate, of all of them, I think Telluride and Wolf Creek are probably high on my list. Wolf Creek, so all of those little ones, all of the ones that are on the mountain passes are small resorts, just a handful of runs. But I'm thinking Wolf Creek probably has a ton of snow. If you want fresh powder that comes up to your neck, that's where you go ski. So that's why I think it would be worth every minute to get there. So in addition to formal ski areas, skiers also ski in other areas in Colorado, such as along mountain passes, St. Mary's Glacier. But of course, you're throwing yourself back to the 1800s because there's no lifts and you're on your own. There's no ski patrol. If you biff it, you're done for. And you have to be careful of avalanches. So it's highly discouraged to do something like that, but folks do it.
Is this where we do the backcountry PSA?
Backcountry PSA, yeah.
Yeah. There are wild areas in Colorado, very wild areas. And we've already talked about a little bit about that when you, if you are one of those that are of a mind to go and find some of these smaller hot springs that are around in our broken up and very violently broken up volcanic areas. Mm-hmm. This is an area where there are no services. There is no one to come and save you. If you hurt yourself, it will take hours to get to you.
If at all.
Okay. Yeah, if at all. There, as she said, the danger of avalanche is a very real threat.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to ski backcountry, do it with several people. Never, ever do it alone. And I say several people because if you do get caught in an avalanche, it will take several people to dig you out in time before you suffocate. Always wear avalanche beacons so that there's a hope of finding you should you get caught in an avalanche.
Or at least they can find your body.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very dire, but
it's real. I mean, I just read an article yesterday of they had to cancel a rescue and somebody's body will be permanently on a mountain because it cannot be reached. It was too risky for those to try it who attempted the rescue. So yeah, that's a very real thing. So here are my top 10 of all of the ski areas I've skied. Number 1, Crested Butte. Number 2, Steamboat. Number 3, Winter Park. Number 4, Copper Mountain. So those top 4, I'll ski them anytime that the opportunity arises. Love them all for different reasons, just about equally. Number 5 is Loveland, 6A Basin, 7 Aspen, specifically Buttermilk, 8 Vale, and 9 Breckenridge. Oh, I didn't put a 10. Oh dear. So 10 probably the north face of Keystone. So there you go. My top 10. Woo!
Did you say Telluride?
Telluride's on my, I haven't skied there yet.
Oh, duh. That's right. It's in that portion of Colorado.
Yeah, it's a 6-hour
Telluride's
drive.
down in the giant caldera area.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So would love to.
Okay.
Definitely love to, but it is a multi-day excursion.
Oh, yeah. Now, see, this is the difference between Kris and I. She knows Colorado through landmarks of ski areas, and I know Colorado through landmarks of volcanic areas.
Right.
So that's when I said, oh, down in the caldera. Yeah, because when we talked about that in southern Colorado, that big area that's all blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of that.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, again, that's me.
And then I am fulfilling my promise to Alice in talking about other wintertime activities in Colorado. So I have to give a shout out to the myriad of other winter sports that Colorado has to offer, including cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, ice skating, sledding, sleigh rides, snowmobiling. Oh, you know what I didn't put on here? Dog sled rides.
Dog sleds outside of Glenwood Springs.
Yep. Michael Palin and his 80 days around the world.
Yeah.
Did a dog sled while he was in Colorado.
I had no idea that we actually had dog sleds to be done here in Colorado until I watched Michael Palin and his 80 days around the world.
Yep.
Yeah, again, we're PBS people.
I know.
Yeah,
we really are.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. Absolutely. Okay. So I haven't done any of these things. Being the ski bum that I am, if I'm going to go outside in the winter, it's going to be on skis. So, but I would like to try everything on that list except for snowmobiling, which to me have your fun if you like snowmobiles, but to me it contradicts the whole purpose of being out in the back country because they're loud and they disturb the wildlife. And I also follow too many ER doctors on LinkedIn and Facebook too. And all the socials to hear about horrific snowmobiling accidents. Like it's number 2 under motorcycles for, being organ donors. Anyway, many of these things like snowshoeing, cross-country skiing can be done a lot closer to the Front Range area. Any of the, city or state parks, any open space, you can do these things, enjoy these things. And because it is a lot quieter and you're not around crowds and it's not a resort, your chances of seeing wildlife are a lot bigger too. So big advantages there. It is harder work because you have to do the up as well as the down. Whereas alpine skiing, you get hauled up the hill and then you just have to work to get down, which is more work than it may sound because you want to get down in one piece. But but it's not any of the up.
Well, there's the sledding issue. There's nobody to take your sled up. Okay.
I know.
And if you've ever been to places like Waterworld, that big tube, you're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. You got to carry it up, and you got to take it off the hill too. It's all on you.
It's all on you.
And the town of Evergreen is really, really good for a lot of these alternative winter sports.
Absolutely.
Especially the ice skating and the sledding.
Yeah.
Their sled hill is epic. It is epic. I remember it, and I remember it even being a young tween doing it. And, I got some speed going. I've seen plenty of footage of between sleds and inner tubes and people bouncing and flying. And like, you want to learn how to fly? Here's a way to learn how to fly. Yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes, and when they go sledding, that's exactly what you can do here because it is. These are like real hills in the mountains where you can get some speed going. Absolutely.
And there were times where, I always joked about the fact I wanted to be Iron Man and fly like Iron Man. Well, I have.
Yeah.
Not voluntarily. Well, somewhat voluntarily, but not intentionally. Let's put it that way.
So, I will say on that list, I think the most likely I'll do next is snowshoeing. I actually got to babysit Alice's snowshoes while she was living in Corpus. Did I use them? I did not, because I didn't have anyone to go with. But now that Alice is back and she has snowshoes, I'll get myself a set of snowshoes and we can go snowshoeing. So I'm excited to try that.
Yes, I'm using them. I'm sorry, but I'm using them.
Okay.
It's like, this is, since it's not all three of us doing this podcast this time, it's
got to fill in Alice's absence somehow.
Well, no, it's the fact that I can be tech guy.
Ah, yes.
You know, so it's like, I am a producer. Woo! Yay.
All right. No. So that therein ends skiing in Colorado through Kristen's eyes.
That's it?
That's it. I took an hour.
Okay. Well, I'm not used to that because we usually, do hour plus with all of us.
And, yeah. Well, I mean, I could regale you with fun stories and, both good and bad of things that I've experienced on a ski slope. But
I think that's something that we can probably do later on. Do another episode of.
We could, or I'll just pop them in now and again when it comes up. But yes, it's
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should have thrown in a couple of PSAs when you're skiing. Be mindful of people around you. Don't ski into them. The person downhill has the right of way. You gotta get out of their way. Just don't be a jerk. Consider everybody around you.
Well, and there it is. Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. Yeah. Just be considerate. And if you are skiing and you find yourself out of control, yell a lot because, you turn uphill is what you do, is you turn uphill because then gravity will help you slow down. Just like those runaway truck ramps. You can only go so far uphill, but then you'll fall backwards and it's a fun little mess, but at least you won't run into people and create a hazard on the slope. That's exactly how Mom's ACL got torn.
I believe it.
Is someone ran over her, and her bindings didn't pop. And so, yep.
I believe it.
But yeah, so just be aware and don't ski beyond your ability. Get yourself out of control. Not only will you hurt yourself, but you'll hurt others. There you go. I'm all done now, really.
Uh-huh. Anyway, thanks a lot, folks. Thanks for joining us. I think, honestly, I think Safety on the Hill might be another episode unto itself, or at least part of another episode.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the winter months very, very quickly here in Colorado. The aspens are all turning now from the northern border to the southern border. We are now in full effect, and it will last for maybe another couple of weeks, and then they will no longer be colorful. So, yes, we're that close.
Hard to believe it was 90 degrees in Denver today, so it's hard to believe that we are at the end of summer.
Yeah, but we're not at 8,000 to 10,000 feet either.
No, we aren't.
So, anyway, thanks for joining us, folks. We will have another episode in 2 weeks. I am hoping to have this one in the can and ready to post probably in a few days after this recording. So look for that. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Kris, for all the information.
Absolutely.
And I will try and put pictures everywhere.
Yay.
Until then, we'll see you soon, folks.